Joining us now is Chief Economist at the IPA, Adam Creighton. Adam, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. The US Trade Office has just raised fresh concerns about its trade relationship with Australia ahead of an expected tariff announcement this week. Now, we know that Anthony Albanese has been forced to defend his relationship with President Donald Trump amid fears of further tariffs against Australia. So we know that Donald Trump is going to reveal the next round of tariffs this week, which he's calling Liberation Day. What can we really expect? What's your sense and feeling about it?
Yeah, well, certainly the US Trade Representative did issue a report that looked at things that the US doesn't like very much about Australia's economic settings, and that included our pharmaceutical scheme, the news bargaining code. But actually, the list was pretty short compared to things that the US did not like about other countries, Canada and Mexico. So it may well be that we escape relatively lightly from this second round of tariffs that, as you say, we are going to see at some point over the next few days. But I think the biggest issue to think here is that even if further tariffs are put on Australian exports to the United States, it's really not the end of the world. Of course, it's not welcome. We don't want it, and it's a shame it's happened. But it's not going to crush the Australian economy. What is crushing the Australian economy is our own domestic policy settings, such as all of the restrictions and all of the energy and renewable energy rollout on our manufacturing sector and our mining sector. So that is the far larger problem for our industry, not 10 or 15% tariffs that may or may not be put on some Australian exports to the US.
Absolutely. Look, Donald Trump has spoken about his relationship, I guess, with Vladimir Putin. He says that he doesn't believe that the Russian president will be going back on his word, and he has signalled really that he trusts that Putin will do the right thing as he attempts to hash out a peace deal with the Russia-Ukraine war. This is what Donald Trump has had to say.
No, I want to see him make a deal so that we stop Russian soldiers and Ukrainian soldiers and other people from being killed, but mostly it's Russian and Ukrainian soldiers. They're losing at least 2,500 human beings, beautiful human beings, a week, and I want it to stop.
What's your assessment of where this is at the moment? Does what Donald Trump has had to say, does it give the world confidence that peace can be achieved?
Well, certainly one of Donald Trump's core election promises was to try to end this war, and it seems that he's trying to do that by applying pressure to both the Ukrainians and the Russians. He's used pretty strong language in recent days. He said, I think he's quote unquote pissed off with Vladimir Putin, that he's very angry that seemingly the Russian leader is not accepting various peace proposals that have been put forward. The US president, I think he's even canvassed putting 25% secondary tariffs on other countries that import Russian oil, such as Brazil, Turkey and India. That would certainly be an extreme move, but I think it's worth noting that all of the chatter before the presidential election and after, that somehow Donald Trump was a patsy of the Russian leader, does not seem to be true at the moment. I mean, like I just said, he's threatening serious secondary tariffs on countries that import Russian oil. Now, look, we'll see what happens there. I think that would be a very extreme move and very, very disruptive to do that. It's not happened yet. But look, I think the prospects for peace are much better than they were 3 or 4 months ago before he entered the White House. That's surely fair to say. Absolutely. And that's got to be good for the world and world peace.
Absolutely. We have heard Donald Trump once again being quite critical of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, claiming that he's now trying to back out of the minerals deal. Take a listen.
Zelensky, by the way, I see he's trying to back out of the rare earth deal. And if he does that, he's got some problems, big problems. We made a deal on rare earth, and now he's saying, well, I want to renegotiate the deal. He wants to be a member of NATO. Well, he was never going to be a member of NATO. He understands that. So if he's looking to renegotiate the deal, he's got big problems.
Yeah, what do you make of that? It really doesn't appear that the relationship between the US and Ukraine is getting any better.
Look, that's true. I mean, I think Donald Trump wants to create the perception and maybe the reality that the US is somehow going to get back some of the hundreds of billions of dollars that it spent supporting Ukraine. It's a very popular notion in the global community that US taxpayers should just pay for the defense of everyone else around the world. But from a domestic US point of view, and certainly from the people that support Donald Trump,
Yeah.
they don't agree with that. They don't like having to pay for everyone else's defense. And so they would like to get something back from the Ukrainians. Now, whether that happens or not, we don't know. But certainly I would say the US is in a much stronger negotiating position here than the Ukrainians, because the US has been funding their entire government, more or less, for years.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about DOGE. Elon Musk says that cutting $1 trillion in federal spending is quite achievable without affecting core services, and he's vowed that Social Security recipients will receive more money as a result. Here he is.
Sort of at a high level, you should think of this as we want to reduce the spending by eliminating waste and fraud, reduce the spending by 15%, which seems really quite achievable. The government is not efficient. And there's a lot of waste and fraud, so we feel confident that a 15% reduction can be done without affecting any of the critical government services.
It's great hearing Elon Musk being so transparent, speaking about exactly what he is doing to the American people, while left-wing activists are out there burning Tesla charging stations and setting cars on fire. But let's talk about DOGE. There are concerns that this could shock the economy. What's your assessment?
Oh, look, I don't think it will shock the economy. There's plenty of evidence in the past from other countries that steep spending cuts do not cause a recession, and in fact can encourage economic growth. Especially when the spending is very unproductive and inefficient in the first place. And of course, as you know, spending leads to taxes, either now or in the future. It seems eminently reasonable to me that the US government could shave 15% off its spending without really affecting services. There is extraordinary bloat in every government, including in Australia's, of course, and we should have some sort of DOGE-like committee here, I would argue for. But remember, the US has shocking fiscal issue. I mean, it spends $7 trillion a year and it raises $5 trillion in taxes. It's got a $2 trillion deficit every single year. That can't go on. Something has to change, and taxes there are already very high. So I think spending is going to have to come down.